Good morning, everybody, and greetings on International Women's Day. The Congress of Trade Unions is very glad to be associated with the Council and the network in the launch of this declaration. I think it's important to say that the declaration itself goes a considerable distance towards the interpretation of the issue which we harbour in the trade union movement, because it's not just about the desirability of the elimination of discrimination against women and equality for women, or indeed the elimination of discrimination generally. I need a well, that might not be any. It's not just about the desirability of the elimination of inequality and discrimination. That's an objective which many good people throughout history have shared and fought for. But there is another issue, and I'm very glad to see it more or less reflected in the declaration, and that is this: that equality is not just morally superior, but it's becoming increasingly evident that it's economically and socially superior as well. And it's critically important that all of us who aspire to the elimination of discrimination and to the assertion of the principles of equality insist on the empirical evidence which is becoming increasingly abundant to show that the economic as well as the moral superiority of equality and the elimination of discrimination, and of course gender discrimination and discrimination against women transcends all forms of discrimination. That being said, I just want to say that the actual elements of the Charter, as they're elaborated upon in this little booklet, actually present challenges. They present challenges to us all. In the case of the trade union movement, they present challenges. They present challenges to my own union. When I was invited by Susan McKay to participate in this launch here today, I leapt at it enthusiastically, and then I got to read the booklet itself, and I realised that for us to meet some of the challenges that are set out in this booklet would require us to very significantly change our organisation from the point of view of the reallocation of resources, which is a very difficult thing to do. And it would be hypocritical of me to stand here today and to be associated with the declaration without highlighting the extent of the challenge which it presents. And just in relation to my own union, the question I think arises always is, well, you've been paying lip service to equality and to gender equality for a long time. What did you actually do? And we were passing motions at conference and year in, year out in our union, but nevertheless, the gender composition of the officer board remained the same, all male. And we finally decided in 2008 that we had to change our rules. Our union is somewhat unique in that we have 3 national officers who bear equal responsibility. And we said we're just going to have to change the rules. And we changed the rule to provide that both genders would have to be represented on the officer board with effect from conference, the aftermath of conference 2009. And as a result, on May Day 2010, we appointed our first woman national officer, Patricia King, who shares equal authority with myself and the other national officer on all matters relating to the union. Now, that was a difficult thing to do. And there was as much resistance from female members as from male members, because in some respects it was perceived as rather patronising. And there was a big debate around that. In fact, that aspect of it evoked more debate than the other issues. But the thing about the conclusion we arrived at is that unless you do these things, you won't do the other things that are necessary to change the promotional structures and so on. There are those, incidentally, in the course of that debate who alleged that it was a devious plan on my part to ensure, given the changing gender composition of the union, that my gender would continue to be represented on the officer board. But Patricia now is responsible for all the industrial disputes and all the industrial business of the union. That's her remit. In other words, she does all the real work while I go around to make speeches and so on. But in relation to industrial work, it's a very happy coincidence that today's newspapers report a major victory for women in the victory of the 5 women who were employed at the Davenport Hotel, who courageously took a stance very much against superior odds to insist on their right to dignity at work, to insist that their employer, notwithstanding the power he was able to exercise over them in an entirely unequal relationship in every possible way, that their employer couldn't simply just walk in and reduce their pay and say, if you don't accept this, you won't be rostered for duty after a certain date. And those women had the courage, notwithstanding the fact that their English was very poor. They had the courage to go out there and stand on that picket line every day, and thankfully received immense support in civil society. Immense support. But it's a rather happy and ironic coincidence that today's newspapers are reporting the decision of the Labour Court yesterday, which unambiguously and unequivocally concluded that those workers should be paid the rate of pay that they were entitled to, and that they should be compensated for what they lost, and that their rights should be respected. Now, on this particular matter, and around the question of the challenges that the struggle for equality and the struggle for the elimination of discrimination on gender grounds present, I just want to make the point to you that it's not just a challenge for the trade union movement or for individual organisations, but as has been pointed out by Alba earlier, when you analyse the locus of discrimination, you inevitably find that the concentration of women in the sectors of the workforce or the sectors of society which are suffering the most severe consequences of discrimination are actually women. The low-pay sectors of the economy employ far more women than men. And there is an issue unfolding now in relation to the mechanisms by means of which the rights of people in the low-paid industries are protected. And these mechanisms are the employment regulation orders, which are determined by joint labour committees. And there is a view among some elements of society and some elements of the business community, not all of them by any means, that in the light of the economic circumstances we find ourselves in, that it would be a good idea to abolish these mechanisms or to amend them